That joke isn't funny anymore. Available on Amazon and everywhere. Hey guys, welcome back to the Lou Perez podcast. I'm your host, Lou Perez, and today I am joined by writer and producer for the Free Press, Ben Kawaller. Everybody, Ben.
Lou.
Did I say Kawaller right?
You did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where's the last name come from?
Oh, I mean, I have no idea really, but I suspect that it's Austrian. But that's just because I think that we have some people in Austria, and I once saw the opera Der Rosenkavalier, which I almost said in a good Germany accent. And I was like, oh, Cavalier, that looks like my last name. And Cavalier like meant the wagon. It's some opera about a wagon. Anyway, so like I guess I come from wagon people, maybe.
He comes from wagon people.
Yeah, like someone was in the wagon business back in the shtetl.
Yeah. So hearing about wagons now, you're like, oh, he sounds like, kind of like a country bumpkin. But if you go back far enough, it's like, no, that guy drove Cadillacs. Like
it could. I'm sure that we were only the highest end wagons. That's right. What we Cavaliers are like.
Have you ever done like a 23andMe or Ancestry.com?
Yeah, I'm like 99.4% Ashkenazi Jewish.
Really? Wow. Yeah. I did mine, and I thought I was going to have like some Ashkenazi in me, but zero.
No. Oh wow.
0.0. Yeah, because I always feel like I have such an affinity and a great relationship with with Jews my whole life. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah.
I'm when I was a kid, I was the kid you wanted at your bar mitzvah.
Why is that?
I like to dance. You know, I was very I was respectful during the ceremony.
Oh.
I lit many a candle, not the 13th. That's usually for someone very special. But
the 13th, I don't know what you're even talking about. What does that mean?
During bar mitzvahs, when they during the party.
You know more about bar mitzvahs than I do. There's candle lighting at bar mitzvahs.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah. So and I'm just putting this out there. I've been very supportive of the Jewish community over the past year in particular.
Thank you. That was going to be my first question. First of all, how do you feel about the Jews?
Yeah. So if anybody wants, is anybody, I know there's probably some people who've, been pushed out of one's life because of their stances. So just know that I'm available. I'm down, and I love parties. So anyone wants to come to bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, I'm there. So
I'll keep it in mind. I was not bar mitzvahed actually. So
okay.
Some people probably don't even think I'm a real Jew.
Well, isn't it? I think
I'm definitely not a real man.
Well, I think it was Corey Feldman. Later on in life, he had like, I don't know, he was going through something, and he's like, I didn't have a bar mitzvah, and then the rabbi told him, you turned 13, right? And then he's like, yeah. He's like, you're a man. It's okay. So
okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, that's a load off my mind.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, Ben, we are recording this a couple of days before Thanksgiving. So, I don't want to throw any gotcha questions at you, but what are you thankful for?
Oh God, oof.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm supposed to have an answer to this too. We're supposed to like submit little mini essays about this for the Free Press. So I really should have this in mind. What am I thankful for?
You're gonna be competing with Douglas Murray, who's gonna say, he's gonna have something really deep.
I know. Indoor plumbing.
Yeah.
The subway.
The subway.
Yeah. I just moved to New York.
Nice. Is this first time living in New York?
No, I'm from Brooklyn.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. I know that. I mean, like the sub, like there's so much shittiness about our subway. It's dirty. Yeah. It's broken down half the time, but we like it that way. Mm-hmm. So
where in Brooklyn are you from originally?
Brooklyn Heights.
Okay. I lived in Brooklyn Heights for around 10 years. 10 years plus. Yeah, I was on Clinton Street, right around the corner from St. Anne's.
Well, I grew up off Clinton Street on State, and I went to Packer, which is like the other St. Anne's, the less
Wow.
fun St. Anne's. St. Anne's is
Yeah.
where like Lena Dunham went,
Right.
where they were all about creativity, and Packer was a little more traditional.
Yeah. I I moved to Brooklyn Heights with an ex-girlfriend and got an apartment there. And it was the best thing to come out of that relationship was
Oh,
moving to
yeah.
that neighborhood.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
it
Near a lot
was
of subways.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Guys, I am such a boring dude that, when it comes to a neighborhood, I'm like, what is public transit looking like?
Wow, what do you mean boring? That's the most important thing in New York. That's pretty high up there. Yeah, it's near near a lot of trains.
There's that one station on, is it on Clark, where you have to take an elevator down.
Well, that's the 2-3 on Clark.
Yeah.
This is so far a very niche conversation.
No, the only people who follow me are, autists who love trains.
Who love trains?
Particular.
All right, great. Let's get more into it.
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, A, C, F, G.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the N, you can get
the R. The R now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was there during COVID, and COVID is the one that had a huge impact, where I went from absolutely loving my neighborhood to absolutely hating it.
Oh, why?
A lot of it was the people. It was the people. It was having so it was like me and my wife and our newborn, walking in our neighborhood, being yelled at for not wearing masks outside.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And it was and I had like all this drama with like the co-op board and stuff. So then eventually we moved out. We've been in
what was the drama with the co-op, or what were you doing?
So we were trying to renovate an apartment to turn it from a 1-bedroom into a 2-bedroom, and we figured it out. We figured out how to do the layout, and it was going to be great. And the co-op board put a kibosh on it. After pretty much making it clear to us that we wouldn't have a problem, they put a kibosh on it, and it was like, wow, that's so much money that has been that we've wasted putting into this.
God,
hiring an architect and doing all this stuff, and then having to figure out where we need to move, and so like moving during COVID, during the pandemic.
How did you react to it? Did you lash out at the co-op board, or like what did you do in the wake of finding out that you couldn't do this renovation?
I was really upset. Yeah, I was really upset, and it was it was all of these different terrible things stacked one on top of another. So obviously there was the pandemic. That was awful. I lost my job. That was awful. And then trying to renovate these apartments while, trying to figure out how to pay bills, that was awful. And I just started, I started just seeing like the people on the co-op board as very much, like, I don't know how my wife put it. She's like, they're not thinking about us. They don't care. They don't care what we're going through. It doesn't faze them whatsoever. So I was giving them a lot more thought, like thinking that at worst, it was like something personal against me, which it could have been. But at best, it's like I'm not even a blip, in their lives. So,
yeah, no one really cares about anyone.
Yes. And then there was one guy in particular. He actually was my accountant for one tax season, who was just a slime ball piece of shit. Who
and you'd given this guy business?
Yeah. And this is before that, where he had said like, I wanted you guys to renovate. I thought it was a great idea, but everybody else on the board. And then it came out later, like, no, he voted against it. Against this renovate, so it's like, it's stuff like that. But looking
great. So you've avoided my question. I want to know how you reacted when you heard this. What Lou Perez is like when he's wronged.
Oh, yeah.
And if you became violent.
No, I didn't become violent. Parts of me, I guess there's a part of me that does wish I had become violent.
Yeah.
There's like a paper trail of me calling people out on stuff. I became sensitive and more aware about how they were running things. And here's the thing, I was part of the co-op board.
Oh,
I was on it too. So
during the time that they denied you this thing.
during the time that they denied me this.
Oh, so you got to be there in person while they were making this decision.
Well, I would have to like technically leave the room, and then they would, you know,
okay,
discuss, vote on this, and then and then say what was what. But there was like, with the co-op board, if there are people who are, say, buying an apartment, they have to go through an interview process, and you discuss with the board members, like, what do their financials look like and all that, and after they they fucked me over on this thing. They were talking about one potential buyer, and they were bringing up how his bank, it's a smaller bank, and he's Israeli and blah blah blah. And I was like, wait, hold on a second. What does him being Israeli have to do with any of this? Like, why are we discussing this? So it's like little things like that where I was like, where are you people coming from, talking about that? And then there was a big incident where one of our and again, this is during like the COVID, the COVID panic, where one resident was attacked on the street outside by another resident.
Oh my God.
And the reason why he was attacked is because this guy had the nerve to be on a bicycle in a bike lane without a mask on. So this like violent asshole who lived in the building attacked this guy. And there was a whole thing going back and forth over email about this. And I was the one pointing out, I'm like, what's going on? You're like, well, we need to do something. It's wrong. What it's so obviously wrong with what happened. And then like the president of the board's like, well, you should be wearing your mask. And it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? So like going back and looking at it, I wish I was in the kind of like a clearer headspace to handle all this stuff. But I was just kind of juggling so much shit at the same time. So,
So the paper trail of you calling everyone a jerk, or is it? Am I misremembering? You said there's a paper trail. I just want, like, I guess what I'm getting at is like, did you talk to any of them sort of in person, and did you start from a place of non-confrontation? And this is something that's very difficult for me to do, but that's why I'm curious about how other people are able to.
Yeah, I think I had. I think the place that I had started with them, it was like right before the vote came in, and this was there was a moratorium on anything regarding building for a while, right? Okay. So it's like months and months passing, and then
no, I mean after you heard it's been denied, right. What was your then? What did you do then?
I think it was by that time when I heard that it was denied, it was just sort of resignation. Whereas it was like, okay, there's nothing to be done here. We just need to look to get out of here. Right. And that's basically, that's basically what it was.
So I don't think I've really plumbed your psychological depths here as much as I.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's been a little while where I've distanced myself from it, and I do this thing where I there's probably stuff or emotions in particular that I'm either repressing or pretending aren't there. They're packed some way back there, but it was not a good time at all.
Yeah.
But this is something you're really good at this, because for the people who might not be familiar with your work, especially with the free press, you are an artist when it comes to talking with strangers, especially with strangers with whom you disagree with, and still presenting them humanely, I guess it would be a way. And your videos are great. I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know I was going to be plumbed psychologically, but no, I did. I appreciate it. So, and the work that you do. So, with that, how long have you been making stuff with the free press? Because I started watching your stuff that you were just doing on your own for a while.
Oh, really? I've been contributing to them for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, But
What's
was I on your radar before then? I mean, I was contributing to LA Magazine.
so it might have been, yeah, it might have been that. So I think on because whatever you were posting on Instagram, I was
Yeah, but
I was checking stuff out.
I think because I feel like I first became aware of you when you wrote something for Fire. You did this fabulous commercial for them.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that was the football one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I produced the football commercial, and then I just produced for Thanksgiving a Thanksgiving video with Fire. Yeah, the premise of it being, it's like a dad, and he doesn't want anybody arguing or fighting this year, so everyone just needs to keep their opinions to themselves. And then what is slowly revealed is that nobody's coming. Nobody's coming. It's like, if I can't speak my mind, if I can't say what's on my mind, I'm just not going to come to dinner, Dad.
Oh, I like this.
Yeah.
Yes, I think Thanksgiving should be all about having it all out. Mm-hmm. More arguments at Thanksgiving. That's what I'm for.
Did you grow up in a family that argued a lot?
No, I mean, we were all sort of we weren't politically sort of all that diverse. Now everyone in my family thinks I'm a Republican. Mm-hmm. No. And we were a very, pretty drama-free household. Mm-hmm. I hate to tell you. It's not great for art.
Yeah.
I don't have like an August Osage County in me, unfortunately.
What's that? No.
Well, there was they did make a movie of it. I don't know why that was the first thing that came to mind. Tracy Letts Play from like 10 or 15 years ago about a, dysfunctional family in the South. And mm-hmm. Anyway, so no one's we don't have a lot of strife.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well,
how about you? Strife?
Well, yeah. A lot of argument. In my family, for the most part, so I have 4 brothers and a mom and dad. And for the most part, my 4 brothers don't argue, especially with my dad. But I'm the one who like argues with my dad. Like
what's wrong with your dad?
Oh no, there's nothing wrong with him. He's just I don't know. There's sort of like this this respect that comes out of fear that they have with them. But I've always had like more, I guess, of an open relationship with my dad, and I'm able to argue and argue and fight with each other about this stuff, which I think in retrospect has led to a deeper relationship than like, oh, I don't want to say something because I don't want to blah blah blah,
But now the brothers resent you because you're the one that can speak your mind and have a close relationship with the dad.
Maybe,
make that up.
I don't know. I don't know how much of it is resentment or I don't know.
Can we call them? Can we get them in the call?
I'm going to pretend that we can't. Look at that. This is just
send them the link.
Just impossible.
It's the whole mishpucha here.
But like with family dynamics, like it is funny just how like some relationships are like, where you have like, oh, here's the quiet brother who doesn't say what's on his mind until he's been drunk, then like things come out and emotions come out, and
of the drunks in my family are in recovery.
Oh really?
They're not practicing, myself included. So
oh wow,
it's really boring.
But it's good. I mean, well, how many drunks are there in your family?
Well, I don't want to out anyone.
Yeah, just say no numbers.
Really, just I guess just 2. But it's not a huge. Yeah, it's very normal. I'm sorry. I mean, we've got but we're both So it's and then everyone else is like a normal person who drinks and is not crazy. So there's not a ton of drama.
Yeah. How long have you been sober?
I haven't had a drink for over 2 years. I had some years before that. And I did the program, as they say.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. And I have come back to it as well. I'm someone who really does not I don't like group think. I don't like reciting all at once. I don't like holding hands with people. Well, I don't mind holding hands with people, but it's I don't like anything that feels religious-y. Mm-hmm. But like most of the time that I've been in in recovery, I have like resented the fact that I've had to do this. And this is the first time I'm doing it because I actually want to be there, because I'm, because it's sort of, because the prior times when I've done this, I felt like the real problem of my life had not been solved, and that like I had no sort of professional identity. I didn't know what I was sort of doing with myself. And now I feel like, okay, I'm like not as much of a miserable fuck. So
Mhm. Was there like a particular point, like, a rock bottom point, or was it, just an extended feeling?
Nothing. No, I mean, and I was also never like all that. Like I never like blacked out I did ruin a birthday. Okay, it's the worst thing that I did. I don't know if this was rock bottom, but it should have been. I should have quit drinking right after this. But I had a birthday party once. This is when I was living in West Hollywood in Los Angeles. And I had this party, and like my whole apartment was full of all these gay boys. I didn't know who any of these people were, but they were all, a whole bunch of potential future husbands there. It's like, wow, this is pretty good. I don't know how I pulled this off. Around 11:30, someone says goodbye to me. Well, I summoned everyone's attention, made a big, grand announcement. Hey, listen, everyone. Whenever you're ready to leave here, just leave here. Don't say goodbye to me, because inevitably you'll interrupt my conversation, and a goodbye is a psychological downer. So just whenever you're ready to go, just fucking go. Well, within 10 minutes, the place had cleared out. These people were like, fuck is this asshole? I guess he wants us to leave. And they did. That was really sad. So that's when I really should have been like, girl.
Was this your birthday?
And it was my birthday. It was my birthday party. Yeah.
Got it.
Some people remained behind to ridicule me for what I had done. So then those were the true friends.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking the only time where I stopped drinking because I thought I had a problem it was probably in my early 20s. And there was a time where I was drinking and blacking out. And like waking up and not knowing where I was. And what was scary was I was waking up and had this dreaded fear that I had hurt somebody. Like there was one time a buddy of mine had a big house party, and it was up by City College. So we were in graduate school. So it was like what people did readings and stuff like that. It was a really fun party. I woke up and I kind of like shot out of bed like this. And then in my hands was a purse. And I was like, what the fuck?
You had transitioned.
I was gorgeous. I was such a piece of ass. I had no idea who this purse belonged to. And I was like, oh my God, what did I do? What did I do? And the purse belonged to a friend of mine who was like sleeping in like another room. And I was so worried that I had done something wrong that I asked my friend, like trying to do recon, and he's like, oh no, you were great, man. We had such a good time. Like, no, you were fun. And then you passed out and that was it.
Yeah.
And there was just a number of times that something like that had happened where I was like, yeah, I just blacked out. I have no idea what I did. And the fear of having lost control or hurting somebody or just doing something I would regret really stuck with me. And I stopped drinking. I think it was probably like 6 months or so. And then I met my future ex-girlfriend who got me to live in Brooklyn Heights. So then, yeah, during that relationship, there were,
you hit the bottle pretty hard, I imagine.
Yeah. She was, she had a problem drinking, and it didn't help. It was a toxic relationship where we both sort of imbibed toxicity, and it wasn't good. But now,
how long were you together?
Over 4 years. Yeah, over 4 years, and I think
sex was that good.
When we broke up, it was great. Yeah. Sex,
you stayed with someone for 4 years in a toxic relationship, and you weren't having like the best sex of your life.
I mean, yeah. I mean, in particular, when I think about that relationship, I remember when we were breaking up. Well, I guess we were always breaking up and having like, what's it? Come back together.
Makeup sex. Yeah.
Makeup sex. Yeah. But yeah, it was the best when we were broken up and still sleeping with each other.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, it was, it was bad. But now, I mean, over the past, I don't know how many years, like I haven't been drinking, like I don't drink that often. And it's more of like me being 42 and
Oh, I can't. It's like impossible. When we were in our 20s, you could drink and wake up in the morning and have a day. I mean, like I can't even sleep when I drink. Like it's not possible. So
yeah, I went on a bachelor party about 10 years ago to New Orleans. And first day we get there, the guys go straight to a strip club at like 10 in the morning.
Oh, I don't like that.
Yeah. And I told the guys, I'm like, I'm going to go take a nap. And so
I
went back.
Strip club?
No, I don't like them at all. Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't want to be titillated without satisfaction.
Yeah. No, I'm 100%. Yeah. I end up going to the hotel, taking a nap, getting a little something to eat, and then I come and I meet up with them, and they've been drinking from like 10 in the morning till probably around 3, and they're all in their 30s. So the next day, everybody's like, I want to go home. Like, there's no way, I can keep doing this. And it's a real thing. That shift between the 20s to your 30s is big, and I just feel better when I just not drinking. So. Yeah.
I feel very lucky to not. Yeah. But if anyone's listening to this and it's like, I should stop drinking, but I don't want to go to these fucking cult meetings. Really, the thing that got me to quit, the last time I quit drinking, it was because I was maybe it was just power suggestion, who the hell knows? But I had been taking psilocybin at such a small dose that you don't feel it. It's not like I was getting high, but doing an ultra microdosing regimen, and it made the decision to quit drinking, just like very rational and unemotional, and I don't miss it. Every so I'll miss it. I see someone having a martini, I'll miss it, but then it passes. It's fine. You know what I mean?
Are you still microdosing? What is
no, I did that for a couple months or something.
So you don't
see, they don't like you to do that in the program. They don't like you taking shrooms. That's
right.
Which was unfortunate.
So if you weren't getting with the microdosing, if you weren't getting high, what was the feeling?
It works like it's a cumulative feeling. Like even just after a week of doing it, I just sort of felt a kind of subtle shift in perspective. And it was also like around the time when I was moving from pursuing or pretending I was pursuing a career in screenwriting to moving into journalism. And again, power suggestion, I don't know, but it seemed to make that broadening of my definition of success feel more natural. Like because I moved into journalism because I was like, I'm tired of calling myself a writer without making money writing things. And so I started writing for LA Magazine and stuff. And the shrooms helped me to do that.
So those of you out there who are looking to stop drinking, shroom up. Get this. Are you pushing any product? Are you pushing? Do you have your own?
No,
line?
I'm not in anyone's. Not in any payrolls of any of these
big
people.
Shroom pocket.
Big shroom. No, big shroom. But I do think that stuff is very promising, and so hopefully our boy RFK will get everyone shroomed up, right?
Right. Yeah. Are you got? Is there a chance when you just talking about shrooms and the free press? Do you guys have like someone on the beat of like psychedelics and
we've covered,
because I know Vice used to have I think it was Errol Morris's son used to do a lot of videos on drugs and all that. Like sometimes
I know we've covered it. I don't think it's something it's not a regular topic. But.
Yeah. Have you covered RFK Jr.?
I went to an RFK rally, or I went to the event where he announced his running mate earlier this year in the spring. And I have fairly conflicted feelings on RFK.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about him? You want to?
We published something last week that I thought was great. That was about sort of how to separate RFK's good ideas from his potentially insane ideas. And the thesis was basically, if they're doing it in other countries, other advanced nations, as they say, it might not be dangerous and crazy.
Mhm.
And specifically, like, banning mRNA-backed vaccines, this is something that they don't do in other countries. So this was something that the writer said is not worth looking into.
Mhm. Yeah.
But things like, taking fluoride out of the water, that is done in other countries. And there's fluoride in toothpaste now. I don't know. I don't really want to get into the minutia of these
Oh, yeah.
things that I have. I mean, that's the problem with RFK, is that, like, if you're not a health expert, if you haven't actually read all of the science that he's challenging or that he's defending, it's hard to feel like you can cover him fairly.
Yeah. And I think also with stuff like vaccines, like, it's something. I have two kids, a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old, and my wife and I have discussed it, and we know parents whose kids have had bad reactions to vaccines, to the regular vaccines, but then we also
like horribly bad, or like they are sick for a couple days.
Yeah. I think I don't know the specifics, but I think like one kid in particular may have had to go to the hospital and all that. But we know from our own kids that they haven't had adverse reactions to vaccines. So I think obviously there are people out there who are going to respond differently to stuff, and I think being able to talk about it is important. And I think probably one of the looking back at, like, the COVID years, and two of the figures who came out of it, RFK Jr. and Elon Musk, they came out of it, I think, so strongly and so popular because so much of those years involved censoring people, for even discussing this stuff. I mean, I remember there were I knew this woman who was a progressive, was very vocal online about pushing for the vaccines and stuff, and she pointed out, like, after she got the COVID vax, how her menstrual cycle changed, like, dramatically. There was this was obviously affecting her menstrual cycle, and she knew a lot of other women that were out there, and she had to couch it by saying, look, I'm not saying don't take it, I'm just saying this is the impact that's had on me. And she was attacked for by people saying, well, you shouldn't even put that out there, because if you put that out there, then people are going to be afraid to take it. And I think that sort of environment just made it ripe for people to say, no, okay, I want to go Elon. I'm with Elon Musk, and I'm with RFK Jr., even if I don't necessarily agree with them on everything.
Yeah, I think that had a lot to do with why Twitter became, with why he purchased Twitter, and why and yes, I agree with you. Yeah. But it is, I mean, it's hard when you feel like when there are things that I remember at the time, and I was sort of less aware of the vaccine skepticism. And I remember being, like, very on board with the make life miserable for anyone who isn't vaccinated camp. Mm-hmm. I was totally one of those people, because what they were saying, at least what I was hearing, was that these vaccines prevent transmission, and that's what it just seemed like, okay, we need to prevent transmission. I wanted life to go back to normal, and it seems now, from what I have read, that they just kept you from dying, but it's not so clear that they did in fact do that. And now you have all these people who were skeptics who are like, "See, I told you." Right. And yeah.
It's like I was a skeptic. I was right about this, so now I'm right about all this other stuff that you called me crazy about. And it's it's like sometimes, that doesn't necessarily work that way.
Well, that's why it's dangerous to censor, because then there's very little trust in institutional knowledge generally, and then all of society collapses because you don't know who to trust. I don't know that all of society is collapsing, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. How do you feel about there was that recent video of the guy from Axios saying X is not the new media, we are still the media. And and all that. Are you familiar with that
I
one?
didn't see that video, but
Yeah.
I'm uneasy with the fact that someone who now is working in the Trump administration owns this massive media company, which is X. I mean, X is where I get a lot of my news. I'm also disturbed by the fact that the place where I go to get a lot of my news is also like feeding this dopamine cycle in me, and I find myself drawn to, maybe this is just like it is with no matter where you get your news. You're always going to be sort of drawn to the thing that reinforces your worldview. But I don't love that the same guy who is curating my news source is also in the federal government, is in the government.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't like, and yeah. And when it comes to X, like, all the people who are leaving it to go on like Blue Sky, which I think I have an account there. I have to check. And, part of me is like, no, don't leave. Like, for a number of reasons. One, if just like you say, Elon Musk, if he's going to play a very big role in the next administration, and he has, one of the, I don't know if it's the top, social media app around now. It's like, don't you want to be there to be fighting in the trenches and to call people out and all that? So there's that. But then also it's like, I have so much fun on X just interacting with people who I disagree with and who are my political enemies. And I'm like, why would you want to give this up? I mean, it's a ball,
Yeah, I'm more of a lurker. But all right, so in your interactions, like, are you a schmuck or what? Like, what's your style?
Oh yeah, sometimes, yeah. Well, it depends. It depends. I try to, maybe I'm a little snarky. I get to pretend that I'm more intelligent than I really am.
Here, wait, let's pull you up. Let's see.
Oh shit, pull me up. Well, let's see, what was the last thing I tweeted? So right now we are recording. It's about 11:38 a.m.
Oh, you've been busy, huh?
On the East Coast, and then let's see. Do I drop the C word in this? I've retweeted some stuff.
No, let's click replies. That's where we can see you.
Oh no,
people.
Oh no.
Okay, I'm not seeing anything too antisocial yet.
Yeah, about 2 hours ago.
Oh,
2 hours ago,
someone called you a dumb fuck.
That's right.
And you didn't respond in kind.
And a lot of it is it's dependent upon
the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again while expecting a different result. And you said source. That sounds like something they say in AA. Actually, the source might be Alcoholics Anonymous, but I'm not really enmeshed in this enough to know what the hell it is you guys are arguing over.
Yeah, I forget what we were saying, but probably my
get money out of politics. That sounds good.
Well, yeah, I think I forget what that was in relation to. I think that was in relation to maybe Kamala. Oh no, so a bunch of people are talking about 2028 and putting together, and Democrats are sort of putting together who should run in 2028. So one of my trolls is I just keep saying, no, it's got to be Kamala Harris, Tim Walz again. There's no other ticket. These are the only two. So going in with that, I think people think like, oh, I'm obviously on their side, but they need to, disabuse me of that. And then I just, if you're against Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in 2028, is it because you're racist or a misogynist? Like, there's no other reason why you could be.
That's an important question. I'm glad you're putting it out there.
That's right. And then, I mean, so many of these accounts, though, it's like, are they real people? It's like some of these accounts, like their whole personalities seem to be dependent upon Donald Trump either running for president or being president, or at this point, Kamala Harris campaigning to be president. Like, I don't know. Some of these accounts, I don't know where they're going to be a year from now. It's like, are you still going to be pushing the Kamala Harris thing? I don't think so.
No, but people have their political projects, and they'll still be on that team, and they'll be pushing whatever everyone else on that team is pushing. Yeah, I would imagine.
And with X, you know what?
Now, how did you become are you a libertarian? Can we talk about that?
Yeah, sure. We can talk about it.
Because I have so many questions about it. I find that whenever I read Reason magazine, I agree with, like 90% of the things that they write about. They seem smarter, more knowledgeable, just that have better values than what I see from. I like them. But I went to where I last saw you was at Freedom Fest, where I was speaking on some panel about bridging divides, sharing my wisdom on that. But apparently this was a libertarian conference. Had no idea.
Yeah.
And like most of the people I talked to were like, yeah, well, ultimately, like we want anarchy. We don't want government. And I just think like, what, like, huh? What? Like, really? Like none? Like what do you want?
What do I want?
Yeah. What's your ideal scenario for
well yeah,
US
so
government?
Well, so one thing I have to, admit is that I'm definitely not the best person to promote libertarianism, anarchism. There are definitely a lot of people who are much better at it, well seasoned than I am. And I think a lot of activists in particular, they can't imagine themselves as being the reason why people would not like their ideology, So I think there's a good chance, from my behavior online and all that, maybe even in person, where people will be like, oh, Lou's a libertarian? I hate that guy. Fuck libertarians. And might just, it's sort of like the street preacher, or the preacher on the subway who's coming and like, is just spouting, like gospel. And all these people are like, oh, this fucking asshole again. Like,
okay, so easier question then. We'll just keep it personal.
Yeah.
When did you realize you were a libertarian? When did you decide to be a libertarian?
I think it was it was during like grad school. So I was probably like 24, 25. And it was around that time. So I was a big fan of Penn Jillette and Penn and Teller. They had a show called Bullshit.
Yes, I remember that.
And so they had that show, and then the offshoot of that was Penn Jillette had this thing, Penn Says, which used to post on YouTube, and it was just him talking to camera. And with that, he used to quote and talk a lot about like the Cato Institute and Reason Magazine. So I think Cato and Reason were, definitely kind of a place where I kind of started like, oh, well, I agree with, with a lot of this stuff. Let me, delve in deeper here. And then in graduate school, I had a friend of mine who's still a dear friend. Her name's Carla Garrick. And we went on a writer's retreat to Archer City, Texas. And for those of you who might not know, there's an author, Larry McMurtry, who wrote Lonesome Dove. He wrote Brokeback Mountain. Like that was one of his.
No, he didn't. That was Annie Proulx.
I don't know. No, yeah. Wait, what are you talking about? Annie what?
I didn't write Brokeback Mountain.
No, the story.
No, Annie Proulx.
Annie what?
Proulx. Proulx.
Let me fact check this right now. Yeah. Larry, did he write the?
Who's this guy? Larry McCafferty?
Larry McCafferty. He adapted
screenplay.
Yeah, he adapted the screenplay.
Oh, gotcha.
My apologies.
There you go. Sure.
Thank you for giving the lady her credit, her due.
Yeah.
So Larry McCafferty is basically from this town. They filmed the Last Picture Show there. It's like a one street light town, like a really small place, and they do this this program through City College. They do like a writer's retreat there. And my friend Carla is an anarchist, and she was the only. She's an anarchist from South Africa. She was a lawyer in South Africa, and she came to the States with her husband Louis. And one night we were kind of all hanging out in the living room, and it was basically Carla up against a whole room full of what you would call status people in favor of the state. And she was fielding questions and arguments and all that. And there were a number of times where she was posed a question, and she was very honest and said, I don't know. And for me, that really, that meant more to me than people who were like, no, this is how it's going to work, and this is how we're going to do things.
Yeah.
So I think that was sort of, she was a very key figure in sort of me going down that route. So.
Well, I really like I don't know too, because it's very honest. But I often worry that it just lets me off the hook for being ignorant.
No, that's true. I mean? Yeah. No, for sure. But yeah, and when it comes to libertarianism, it means a lot of different things for different people. So most of the people that I know, what attracts us to libertarianism is this idea of the non-aggression principle. The idea that the initiation of force is wrong. You know, that if I want something from you, I want it to be a voluntary exchange. I don't want it to be, hey, I want that from you, and if you don't give it to me, I'm going to take it from you forcefully. So kind of like viewing relationships between the individual and your neighbor in that way, and then sort of expanding that to from your neighbor to your neighborhood to your, you know, and going outward. It's sort of like that's the goal, is sort of having a you know, I don't know if you would call it a society where people respect each other's, you know, value as individuals, and, you know, trying to, and don't hurt people, don't take their stuff. As
I've heard that mantra before, and this strikes me as the sort of thing about, well, it'd be very nice to live in a society where people behave that way, but unfortunately, we live in reality where people don't behave that way, and where sometimes, you know, the thing that not every relationship is going to be entered into consensually, and
it's a reality. No, 100%. I mean, even, you know, the reality is that, like, in my neighborhood where I am now, yeah, I'm a libertarian. I could be the only libertarian, which means that I have to deal with people who aren't libertarians, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's a good skill for libertarians to have, because, you know, you guys are like 0.1% of the population or something. Right. Well, that's not true. That's not, yeah. But, you know, things like, I don't know. Well, I was about to say
roads. Were you about to say roads?
No. I was, because everyone says roads. Right. No, I was thinking family court, but then you know, for instance, you know, custody of a child is a example of something where often people are not entering into negotiations with, you know, people can be selfish and irrational, and I guess a libertarian would say, well, how functional do you think the family court system is? Not very. But there just seems to be sort of like nihilism that says, well, we couldn't possibly adjudicate these things, or we couldn't possibly have a system that fairly, well, adjudicates these things.
Yeah, I think my friend Michael Malice, he's not a libertarian. He's an anarchist, and I think he's done a very good job talking about you know, anarchy is that it's not a destination, it's a relationship that you have, like, kind of like what I sort of explained, and you know, he'll be very open, say that, you know, when people ask, you know, in an anarchist system, you know, what happens to the kids, you know, and I think that that's one of those, I don't know, I'm not sure, but I think even like, you know, even like you said yourself, you know,
what happens to the kids in what situation? In the family court situation, or in the
yeah, well, yeah, it's like, well, yeah, well, if you know, like, if children are being abused, right? You know, it's like, you know, what happens in an anarchic,
or if other people, just like crime, you know, I mean,
yeah.
Or do libertarians just think that we should all sort of like be like that?
Well, I think
like hyper localized or something.
Well, I think the crime one is, I think that's probably easier to sort of pinpoint what a libertarian system would be like. For one, it's very difficult for, say, police to say that they protect you from crime if one of the first things that they do is disarm you as a citizen, you know. And I'm speaking specifically about, you know, gun laws.
But generally, the people they're disarming are people who are in the midst of committing a crime. No.
I mean, like, for example, like in New York City, it is illegal for practically every single citizen there to be armed.
So you're saying, how can the state protect you if the first thing they want to do in some places is take away your gun?
Exactly. I mean, it would sort of be like, and I mean, you could see how, you know, things are kind of playing out in New York. I mean, forget about, you know, even like the gun stuff, but, you know, the ordeal that like Daniel, you know, Penny is going through right now for, you know, protecting, you know, a subway car full of riders.
We just released the video about
that's awesome.
That whole thing, by the way. This was out yesterday, so all of your readers should go to freepress.com.
Yeah, and watch I'm gonna put links to all this stuff. You know, so I think it's even, it comes down to, having, valuing the, valuing the individual, valuing the life of a person to be able to defend themselves, and also being around people who aren't going to say, oh, wait a minute, that guy who said he was going to kill everybody on the subway and you put him in a chokehold, you're the bad guy for, for doing that. So, so I think like with the crime stuff, it, allowing individuals to defend themselves in the best way that we know how at this point is being armed. And then when it comes to you also have the possibility of having private security, in the same way that people who would become police officers could very well be armed private security. There are a lot of people who
we have that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
of course.
It came out, in, I think like Detroit is probably an example of, the police weren't doing a very good job of protecting a lot of businesses. And so then you have these private security firms that, came up to protect businesses. So like in Detroit and Philadelphia as well. And just talking about my friend.
But weren't the, well, I don't know the specifics of why the police in Detroit and Philadelphia were not protecting businesses, but do you know? I mean, was it just this sort of general taking away prosecution of so-called low-level crimes?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, I think that those are solutions to a problem that is always that's always going to be there. As far as people who are looking to harm others.
Well, I mean, I don't know that it's a problem that's always going to be there, that police are unable to protect small businesses. It seems like that was a reflection of this weird political moment we were in, where people felt like, well, we should tolerate some disorder for the sake of justice or social whatever. But police before that were able to be more effective, and police are more effective in other places than in other places. So. I'm sort of not ready to sort of say that all of policing is not.
Oh yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, I hear you on that. And with libertarians like you, I've, especially when I first kind of like came into the scene, like one of the people I read a lot was this guy Radley Balco, who wrote a lot about police militarization, over policing, and that sort of thing. And there are actually quite a few libertarians who are more pro law enforcement. And the way that and I've come around a lot more to the pro law enforcement side, and a lot of it having to do with body cams. As body cams have proliferated, the public is now able to see who the police are dealing with every single day, and how many people take something that is a simple, stop, and then escalate it to, dangerous levels. But at this point, like I sort of describe myself as, I'm not necessarily pro police. I am anti-criminal. So kind of like in my libertarian world, most criminals, especially the violent ones, would find retribution at the scene of the crime instead of waiting for the police to get there, if you know what I mean.
So if we only had more people with guns, someone would shoot the criminal before the police could get there, and ideally not shoot the criminal.
Oh, that or just I think even baseball bats. I think kind of going back
this
to
is an inspiring vision.
I think baseball bats would do a lot of good.
Well, baseball bats are legal. I mean,
not necessarily when they're used. They could be used as a deadly weapon, and you'll have people who could,
yeah, but we also have. I mean, self-defense is but I guess vigilantism is not allowed. I mean, can you beat someone with a baseball bat if he's threatening someone else? Can you?
Ben, I think we have the next video for the Free Press. Ben Kawaller and
I'm going to go find some vigilantes.
That would be great. But yeah, I mean, I know that these are, complicated issues. And like I said, there are, people who with a lot better arguments than I have, stronger ones. So,
well, I feel you've held your own pretty well.
Thank you, Ben.
against my somewhat tentative questions.
So with that, you've spoken with the log cabin Republicans.
Oh yes, I was a replacement speaker for the log cabin Republicans.
You're not a Republican. You went to the Libertarian Freedom Fest. You're not a libertarian.
Yeah.
And like I said before, you do a really
not
good
a
job.
joiner.
Not a joiner. You've held debates between conservatives, liberals, pro-Trump people.
Yes, the swing state debates.
Yeah,
check them out.
Yeah,
people.
So do you think that unity is possible at this point, or?
I think that for most people, unity is. I think that, look, there was some study that came out probably about a year ago. I don't quite remember, called. Oh, I've forgotten everything. Who did this study? But it basically said that, look, half the country doesn't identify as either the Republican or the Democratic parties. Most people politically are kind of in the middle here. If you have a bell curve, they're in the middle of it. People agree largely, but you have these wings that are vocal and get the most attention. And so, I mean, I think that there's more unity than what meets the eye. But maybe that's irrelevant, because really, when you look at history and when you look at what really sort of matters, it's about the people who have power and who are who have the megaphone and who sway opinion. So maybe it doesn't matter that half the country really agrees with each other, because what's important is the fact that 25% here and 25% there are making the decisions. And so all of which is to say, is it possible? I don't know sort of how we get there. It's been really interesting seeing friends of mine who, I come from Team Blue. I was always raised Team Blue, and up until recently, most of the news I got was NPR, New York Times, and I guess maybe 5 years ago or something, I started. Twitter was such a great way to procrastinate while I was writing scripts, and that's when I came across Barry Weiss, who's now my boss, and all the rest of the IDW, the intellectual dark web. And I guess if unity is possible, I think that people just need to expand where they get their news from, so that they can see that it's not so that we don't have to be really on these two separate teams at all times. There's a predisposition to thinking that everything that Trump does or everything he's going to do is fascist and with the aim of persecuting minorities. And I don't think that is fair. Certainly there's some of it is fair. I would not want to be an undocumented immigrant right now. But
yeah, I had a friend of mine earlier this year. We got together. We hadn't hung out or talked really in probably like 5 or 6 years. And we got together for a few hours. We had such a great conversation, and it was so much fun. Talking about old times and all that. And after the conversation, I emailed him, just saying man, how lucky I was to have met you when I did. And we got to work together on all this stuff. And man, what a great and positive impact you've had on my life. And I love you, man. Just thank you so much.
Yeah.
And it was coming from, I do this thing where if I get that feeling, I text the person or something like that. And sometimes I'm like, oh, that's a little saccharine. I don't know why I did that. But he responded, he really, glad we talked, and he enjoyed the conversation too. And he said something along the lines of, as you can imagine, with our politics being so different, I was worried that we would argue about something. And it really struck me, because at no point in our conversation or even leading up to it, or even the years leading up to it, have I thought about what his politics are. It just hasn't.
Yeah.
It never crossed my mind. And I was just thinking oh my God, here's my friend imagining something about me, like my politics. Like you and I have just talked, like, yeah, I might have some wacky ideas about policing or government and like that, but that's not all I am. And that's not the relationship that I have with this person, So I wonder how many people are sort of, they're not bridging that divide because there's a war playing out in their head that the other person is on,
And I don't know if this is entirely fair, but it's my impression that that people on the left have more of a problem talking to people on the right than the other way around. Again, could be wrong here, but I think that this has to do with the fact that people think that if you vote for Trump, you support, you're a bad person, that you support fascism, i.e. you are a fascist. Whereas I think that Republicans, when they think of people who support Kamala, what do you think? You're kind of more closer to that team, maybe. What do you think, like when you think of a Kamala voter, what's the sort of stereotype you're thinking of?
The stereotype's kind of female, I think.
So female is not as bad as immoral.
No. I don't think that. I think very much, when it comes to, supporting Kamala, it's because she wasn't Trump. She was the person that the team, your team selected.
For, can I ask?
I voted Trump.
Yeah, and are you based in New York still?
Jersey. So
okay.
Yeah. As much as that mattered, but for me, and I put it out earlier, sometime before, probably a week before the election, and for me,
why didn't you vote for Chase Oliver?
I don't think Chase earned my vote.
What'd she do? Not do.
Him being just a libertarian didn't necessarily, doesn't sway me. And it still remains to be seen if Trump adheres to all the promises or any of the promises he made to the Libertarian Party. But for me, the big one was commuting the sentence of Ross Ulbricht. So Ross has been in jail.
Yeah.
Ross has been in prison for over 10 years, I think, at this point. And I know Ross's mother, Lynn Ulbricht, and I performed at a benefit for Ross some years back.
What's the story there?
It's the Silk Road story, the dark web thing. So he served 10 years of, I don't know if it's a multiple life sentence, and people can correct me.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So for me, it was very much
enabling some illegal behavior.
I think that was a part of it. There's a lot of like drug dealing that was happening on Silk Road, but then again, it's like, where doesn't that happen? But that being said, I maybe I was going with my emotions and just the thought of Lynn, being able to hug her son outside of a prison, and I was like, okay, it's worth my vote in New Jersey, to if I can possibly make that happen. So that's where I went.
That's interesting. It's funny. If you really felt like a vote for a certain person was going to help you in a way that is so deeply personal, that's just an interesting question about what motivates us and what we really care about. So
yeah, it's often a criticism that people vote against their own interests. Okay, well, this is one of my interests,
Right.
Yeah. Ben, I've kept you for over an hour.
Oh, now I have to go back to work.
You got no excuses now. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too.
And I'm a fan of your work. And like I said before, I think you make it an art form, the way that you're able to communicate with people and do it in a way that is human and entertaining and often very funny. And I hope more and more people check out your stuff. And I hope that you're producing more and more stuff for the Free Press, and it continues to grow and grow and grow, and more people see it. So.
I hope the same. And I'm very much looking forward to watching your Thanksgiving video, which I will do right now.
Thank you.